right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Gabbin with Jessa and the Interstellar Book Club's live show for the month of April. This month we have read, this beautiful black book because I realized I left the Just jacket at my apartment and I don't have it with me. The Kaiju Preservation Society by John Scalzi. I hope I pronounced all of those words correctly. So, we're going to be discussing this today. We'll talk about non-spoilers, and we'll talk about spoilers. We'll also talk about the book that we're going to be reading for May that will take place on Melody's channel. And if my fellow co-hosts would just like to say hello and introduce themselves, I'm sure you guys know them by now, but just to kind of, introduce and get to know them, we can start with Steph or Mel if she still needs to be on mute.
Hello, everybody. My name is Steph. Coffee over apples. I do things, book things. Come hang out. That's it. Go, Max.
Hey, I'm Max from Max Reads. I do single book reviews. Come check out my channel. That's all I do. Mel.
Hi, I'm Melody from Strawberry Lemon Books. I'll be back on BookTube in like a month or two, and back to Jessa.
Same, Mel. Same. Just need to take a break, just life, but I agree. But it has not stopped me from reading and being alongside here with my wonderful co-hosts. So like I said, this month we read the Kaiju Preservation Society. This was a really interesting read. It actually is a very modern take, or not modern take, but a lot of modern things are within this book. They talk about how like COVID-19, that was like the main kind of driving point, or at least the start of the main plot, how everything was going on with that. There's a lot of kind of like pop culture-y references in here, some that made me cringe and laugh at the same time. So it's definitely a more modern kind of sci-fi, definitely set in like our world of 2021, 2022, like the last few years. And so it was really interesting to kind of read a book like that is taking place with events and things that I am familiar with, that everyone is familiar with. And I think, my star rating of it was 4.5 out of 5 stars. I love this book. And so if everyone else wants to give their star rating, we'll start with that before we get into non-spoilers.
Which direction do you want to go in?
Whichever.
You should start first, Steph.
Oh, geez. I'm currently sitting at a 3.5. It's somewhere in between there. I don't know if that's going to change, but I was in between a 3 and 3.5. So I think I'm going to stick with 3.5 for now for some enjoyment factors.
Cool.
Yeah.
Mine was somewhere between a 3 and a 4. But I feel like I have valid reasons, so we'll get to that.
I think this is probably a 5 for me.
Wow.
Ooh.
I don't know. I read it I started reading it yesterday, but it was very enjoyable, even with the pop culture references.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this book, again, I think this is actually a pretty good book for an introduction for those who are not familiar with sci-fi or are scared of it, especially because of the science aspect of it, because it is, taking place in a world that people are familiar with. It's pretty short. It's only like 250 some pages long, and it's like a quick read. Like once you're into it, like I started it a few days ago, finished it like 2 days ago or whatever, or like, within the past few days, because it was such a quick read. And I think
really
that could really be great for people who are trying to get into sci-fi, when it's a quick read, when it's taking place in a world they're familiar with, but it still has science fiction aspects to it.
In a world they're familiar with. Jessa, do you live in the hot, steamy jungle of a parallel Earth?
I mean, in New Jersey in the summer, sometimes it feels like that, but
I mean, we are the swampiest state, so.
Is that actually New Jersey?
Yeah, we're known for swamps.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're called the Garden State, because we have so many swamps. Might as well be.
That.
Hello. Thank thank you for joining us. Super excited for you to be here. All
Glad
right.
you can make it. Tell us your thoughts.
Yes.
Yes.
Before we dive too deep, should we introduce what we're going to read next month?
Yes.
For anyone who doesn't want to get too deep. So in May, we're going in May. We are reading Winter's Orbit. Ooh. Ah. Very nice.
Pretty.
So excited. I think this is a standalone. I could
I
be
think
wrong.
it is. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hopefully.
Pretty sure. But it sounds like it has a lot of space political intrigue. So
Okay.
yeah. You can join us for that. Discord is in the description.
Mhm.
And that's the plug.
I think like on Goodreads it said it was like red, white, and royal blue meets like Alliance or something like that. So
I
that should
haven't
be
read any of
interesting to
those,
read.
so sure. I don't know.
All right. So, if we would like to begin with non-spoilery thoughts on what people thought of this book, we seem to have generally like average to above average ratings for it. So I think that's really good too. So I'm excited to see what we're going to say.
Oh, yay! I'm
Yeah.
glad you're here for the
All
long
right.
haul. Okay. All right.
I know I did request it from my library at first, but then it was like getting close to the end of the month and I was still like 4th on the waiting list. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm going to need to buy it. So
Yes.
It was fun to read.
It was.
If
I
nothing
feel
else,
like-
it was fun.
Yeah. I feel like I mostly gave it a 5 because it was fun to read. Like I
Yeah.
haven't been in the mood to read at all. I
Mhm.
was like, oh, I really have to read this book right now. But I liked it. And I feel like it might have brought me out of my slump a little. So I appreciate it.
that's what I'm feeling too.
Mm.
Yeah.
Has anybody read anything else by John Scalzi?
No, this is first.
Me neither, but apparently this is like super not representative of the rest of his stuff.
Oh.
Apparently
how
this
so?
is a really standout, like different in that it's really lighthearted and funny and comedy.
Yeah.
So is all their other
reading-
stuff?
I
Okay.
think the rest of their stuff is a bit more serious.
Yeah, I think so too. I was reading the acknowledgments or whatever at the back of the book, and it was he was actually writing a different book that was like more dark and serious, and then like COVID hit and everything, and he was like, so we're not gonna publish this book. And then like a couple of days after, he was like, okay, I have thought of a whole new book. This will be done in like 2 months, so we can publish a book. And yeah.
With how much it's based in COVID times and the pop culture references, I wonder how well this book is going to age, because I feel like it's written for exactly one kind of nerd exactly right now.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder in 10 years if people are still going to enjoy this, or if it's a very 2022 book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was one of my criticisms of it also. Like, and that's kind of the one thing that made me drop my rating. Which I guess we'll go to more into like spoilers, is how relevant it is to now. And so because of that, I don't think it's going to age well.
Yeah, I feel like it might not either.
And that's exactly why I brought it down too. As much fun as I had with it, I realized I'm gonna like this now, but if I were to give this to like my future children or something like that, they're probably not gonna just automatically know who Edward and Bella are and why those two names are together. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
here for non-spoilers. Awesome.
Oh, good to know.
Ooh, okay.
Standalone set in the same universe is very Becky Chambers, which we are
Yes.
all about.
I do like
Yes.
that, yeah.
I love it. But I did find out that I think PBS put out like an updated list of the 100 greatest American reads, and Twilight is on there. So I think Twilight is going to be around for a really long time. So maybe future generations are very likely going to read it if it's being pushed.
They're going to be
as, like,
studying it in school.
They are. Oh my god.
That's disgusting.
I know.
Talking about like the phenomena. Dude, like this is completely not about this book, but like Twilight came out, or at least the movie came out when I was about in like 7th grade-ish or something. And it was like, we had, he had to read books over the summer or whatever before school started. And they allowed Twilight on there. And then when I reread it as an adult, I'm like, This probably shouldn't have been available for 12 to 13-year-olds to read.
Wow.
Like,
They put Twilight on that?
Question.
I can't remember any other book that was on that list, but I remember that Twilight was on it.
Oh
Oh
no.
my
Controversial.
gosh.
So maybe in that sense, this book will still be relevant
Mhm.
20 years from now. Who knows?
But also, I can see it not being super relevant because we're still, in a way, living in pandemic times, and at least like post majority of like the pandemic time. So it's something that we can relate to more because we have lived through it. Whereas, again, like down the line, if I were to give this to my children, they'd be like, "Oh, the pandemic! I remember you talking about that," and but not really like connect with some of the feelings of like, you know, losing your job and trying to find like a crap another job just to pay the bills. While, you know, going out in something that we like be going out in? We don't know. Everyone's in masks kind of thing. I feel like I should be staying home, but I need money. So I think that it's something that I think really connected with me because we lived through these times, but that won't probably be seen later on.
That is true. That is true.
That is a very good
Yeah.
point. Yeah. Yeah.
Even if it's a terrible book, at least they're in the library doing
Yes.
things.
Net
Will
positive.
giving my friends Twilight make them into bookworms? I need more in real life friends to
Are
read.
all of your next year's Christmas presents going to come with an agenda, Mel? Are you just going to give everyone Twilight?
Everyone gets Twilight.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you know what is like? This is another tangent. I'm really sorry, but like, now I'm just thinking about Twilight.
It relates to the book, you guys. We
How
swear it does.
bonkers is it? How bonkers is it that book has been out for that long and it's not had a single cover reprint?
Great point.
Now that you said it.
Oh, yay! Welcome.
Yay.
Okay, so how do we get back on track for the
Yes.
Talking about monsters, talking about monsters.
There are monsters relevant to Twilight. We will talk about that later.
Are they
so
relevant to Twilight?
Is it
We'll
a
cycle back.
spoiler? Yeah. Is it a spoiler that this is about kaiju? No, because it's in the
No.
title. So can we potentially say, and it's non-spoilery to say that they're not dinosaurs, they're
Yeah.
kaiju.
Mhm.
That's a whole argument for the spoiler section, but that they are being named, and so we have Kevin, Edward, and Bella
Mhm.
because everyone needs a Kevin.
Yep.
So.
Exactly, yeah. So we have this world of COVID where our main guy, Jamie, who's like an executive at like Uber Eats, or essentially a kind of Uber Eats, he goes in with these great ideas before the pandemic, being like, I think this is how we should market our app, our food mood. I think it was what it was called. And we should, get these restaurants. Things are about to go to shit, so let's like get in there. And then his boss was like, great, but because of the pandemic, you're going to be fired. And so now he's a food delivery guy for this app, runs into an old like buddy of his, an old colleague of his, and is like, hey, do you want a better job instead of food delivering? And Jamie's like, sure, what the heck? Even though he has to decide basically right then and there because they're about to leave on their mission. And in their mission, it's going to a world, and I don't think this is spoilery, I think this is said like in the text or whatever. They go to a world that is similar to Earth, but not our own Earth, where these kaiju are around, and they're researching them, studying them, and just learning more about them in this alternate Earth. And that's like the main premise of the whole story.
I am, just based on something you just said, I am extremely confused. Because does it ever gender Jamie at all? Because I went through the whole book thinking Jamie was a woman.
Really? I went through the
I
book
thought
thinking Jamie was a guy.
Jamie was a dude.
Wow, that's weird.
In
Having
my brain, as 100% a woman.
Huh.
Wait, hold
What?
on. I'm gonna Google. Wait, because I
I'm,
listened
like,
to it on
I'm, like,
audio.
flicking
lis-
through, trying to find a pronoun.
Unless, because I listened to it on audio and the narrator is a male.
Yeah, I
So
was
maybe that's why
listening.
I figured, and it's from his perspective, or from the main character's perspective. So I assumed that it was a male.
Wikipedia.
Yeah, me too. I had the physical and was listening to the audiobook along with it. So I thought it was a male.
Yeah, I don't know why I automatically thought. I think I partly listened to the audiobook, and that's probably the reason why I also thought that. But now that you're saying that, Max, I don't recall there ever being like a pronoun or like saying like they were like this guy, or like, you know, a basic description at the beginning, or this girl. That's interesting.
Well, I
That
feel
is
like I'm outvoted anyway, so if anybody's wrong, it's probably me.
No, you might be right. I totally didn't even pick up on that.
I
Um,
love
I
that.
really
If it's
thought it
something
was a
that we
woman,
can't
though.
find, anyone could be
Yeah.
Jamie then.
Yeah. That's a great question. If anyone knows, let us know in the chat, because now I need to know. Dun dun dun. Or is there fan art? Who is Jamie?
It's Jamie.
Jamie's us. We're Jamie.
No,
Okay,
because that's
I'm gonna find it.
Is he?
I'm gonna find it.
I'm like reading through all these descriptions too, and it's always either like it's just Jamie, not like.
Okay, so on that point, though, I guess maybe part of the reason why I imagined them in my head as a male part, and aside from the narrator, from being that perspective and having a pretty, I think they're a pretty reputable male narrator, but also the fact that to me it read like a fanfic. In more ways than our last month's pick did. Was that Project Hail Mary? This one read more so like a fanfic, because of the way in which Jamie was found, quote unquote, based on reasons that were like, oh, we've seen things that you did, and so we want you to be part of this team. And it was seen to be something as coincidental, but not really. And then this whole relationship with, I'm working this kind of Uber Eats job because I have this master's degree that I can't really do anything with, right? So it felt like it was
so bad in
the
heart.
pain. It was so real.
Huh.
All right.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so
Cool.
good to know. Thank you for that. All right,
Yes.
so yeah, but I was reading it as a fanfic, and so that's probably partially why I like inserted that myself. So bad stuff, bad brain. Don't do
That's what I'm like. I'm also thinking probably just because they used to work at like they left for the tech industry, and like I just think that's usually some of our big tech gurus are males, and like they had like a high up position, so I'm like
Oh, I'm reading
definitely
this,
a male.
yeah, I'm reading this review right here on a book blog, and they're referring to them as him.
Okay.
So I don't know. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. Interesting.
Maybe it's
Okay.
because the book references Snow Crash as a pop culture reference a couple of times, which is the best cyberpunk book ever written in history. But the delivery person in that is a woman, so maybe that's why I posted over the top. Maybe I was like, the book was like, they're a man. I was like, nah. Nah, sorry.
I've never read Snow Crash. So
It's really good. It's really good.
I'll have to read it.
I'll add it to my
Oh, actually, totally take back what I said. I'm looking at an interview with John Scalzi right now, and one of the questions is around their non-gendering of Jamie, and John was asked about like their choice in doing so. So yeah, totally. Thank you for that.
That's
Yay,
really
clarity.
interesting.
Good to know.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, but so for those reasons, I felt like it was a fanfic, and I don't know how much is spoilery, but this is hard to say. It's kind of one of the situations like if I could write a fanfic about myself not being able to find a job that is my dream job, and then I get swooped up and I'm brought into this really cool secret sciencey place, and everyone's like, "You're so smart, even though you're not a scientist, but we need your help." And it's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna save the world, yeah." And it's like, that's kind of what happened.
Mm.
Yeah.
So this book was kind of like, in a way, advertised as like taking place obviously in the COVID world. They mention it, they mention masks and things like that. So how do you guys feel that COVID played into the story? Like, do you think that it was an important aspect to put in there? Do you think it was just more so for like to be like modern and like have something that everyone who would read it today could relate to? Like, do you think COVID was an important part of this story?
Nope, and I hated it.
No.
Hated
I
it
feel
so
like
bad.
it could have been removed and been exactly the same story.
Yeah, mine was no, but I didn't mind it.
Mm-hmm.
It made me cringe, and I was like, "Why am I being reminded of reality? Stop!"
Yeah, we're done with that.
I actually have an arc that I still need. Well, the book came out already. I'm just late on reading arcs, but it's like a romance kind of book, and it was set in COVID times, right when the pandemic starting. I was like, wow, this is really early for that, but
Mm.
now I'm okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Is
see,
it-
I
do
can
you feel
under.
like? Oh, sorry. No, go ahead.
Oh, really brief. I was gonna say, like, see, I can kind of understand that if it's a romance book around the dynamics of romance during that time period, during the time period of the pandemic, because those are totally different, out of the norm dynamics. But getting all your shots when you're going on a trip and like, you know, having a degree and not being able to find a job, like those were relevant before the pandemic, and they're
Mhm.
still relevant after, whenever after is, right? So it's like, I don't think that adding information about COVID or making it take place during COVID or adding vaccines or any of that stuff like added any element, but was just a constant reminder to me of like, the world is happening. Sorry, Max Cat.
With how unimportant it was, I had this thing in my brain that was like, it was almost like it was in some way trying to capitalize off it.
Yes.
Mm.
It felt like propaganda.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, people died, man.
Right. It's like, in a way, I liked it because it was, and again, I think, trying to bring new people into sci-fi, I think it's a really good way to be like, look, this is a world that we've all experienced and lived through. So why don't you and kind of using that as like an entry point in, so that way they could enjoy sci-fi. But I also agree, this person, I was about to say man again, this person could just go out and have this great idea and then just still be laid off. Like the pandemic wouldn't have had anything to really do with it, and then they still become an Uber Eats guy.
Mhm.
Like that still could have just been the exact same thing and not have to mention COVID. But again, I think in a way it was kind of like propaganda, or I think of it more as like marketing, so that way you can bring new people in, and because they're able to understand what COVID is and how it affected people.
Mhm.
Whereas like if someone loses their job, like that happens all the time, even before the pandemic, but maybe people may not, if they've lived a very good life or are on the younger side, they may not completely understand what those repercussions are and why
Mhm.
they had to resort to being like a food delivery guy as like their main source of income. And while that is what a lot of people do, and I think that those delivery drivers do deserve more of like benefits and things along that nature, I think that including the pandemic kind of would have helped, bring in people who that was not a reality to them, that someone could lose their job and then go and try to find something that's like lesser than.
Mhm. Mhm. So if that is the case, if you think it was like a marketing tactic to help make more people like bridge the gap into like, don't be intimidated by sci-fi, but then does that just ground it more in it's only relatable now, and then 20 years from now is it going to
Definitely,
lose
yeah.
viewers? Yeah.
Hmm.
Don't know.
Yeah, I feel like it didn't, like, by mentioning COVID, it didn't really capture like everything about COVID, like all the deaths and the like real impact that it had on the world. But I don't know. I didn't mind it. I feel like the author kind of wanted to put some commentary on the president.
Mhm.
And then I feel like people would still know about COVID in the future. And like, I'm taking a class in epidemiology, and I've heard a couple professors say like we're probably gonna have a lot more pandemics and stuff, and just different diseases that pop up just because of like global warming and everything like that. So I feel like it would still be relevant, but probably more relevant for like people who have lived through it.
Mm-hmm. There we go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, same.
Definitely aged.
Same. Yeah. So, and then while we're still in non-spoilery sections, I think it's not spoilery to talk about that first chapter that you kind of summarized, Jessa, with him giving his input about how the Uber like business can improve, and then he gets fired. So how realistic was it that he gets fired in a conversation with like the CEO of the company, or like whoever that big honcho was,
Mm-hmm.
and that he's actually getting fired by someone who's like higher up in this humongous, expansive, like capitalist, workforce? Because then they become relevant again later, and it's like,
Mhm.
hey, they're back, and it's like, yeah, but why would they have been the one to fire you?
Yeah.
Probably
Right.
would have just gotten a text message like,
Mm-hmm.
don't know.
Smaller, like HR person just calling you and being
Mhm.
like, see ya.
Yeah.
With the big boss being like, "Yes, sir, get out." It was like it was really like he was trying to have some commentary on capitalism, but at the same time, it was like a weird caricature of what an office environment is actually like.
I feel like most of the book was a caricature, which
Yeah,
was like
100%.
not a bad thing because it was still super fun.
It make a good
but
movie.
Yeah, it would totally make a good movie. But because of that, I like, for me, I couldn't take it seriously,
Yeah.
if that makes any sense, because it was like a lot of exaggerations and like personal inputs of things, and I'm just like, I feel like I'm reading about the author. Okay. Like,
All right. Yep. So then he's delivering. He meets his old buddy. His buddy's like, I got a job for you. And he's like, all right, let's go. And then basically everything after that is spoilery, I would say, like where they're going, like how they're like the main job. And then, of course, like the big epic conclusion and everything. So does anyone else have any non-spoilers that they would like to give before we move on?
is it possible? If you like Godzilla and what else?
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park vibes for sure.
This is like Jurassic Park on crack.
It is. It feels it. A Jurassic Park fanfic is what this is. And
Oh,
if
you know what
you're
this
into
feels like?
biology,
This feels like, have you read a book by Matthew Riley called The Great Zoo of China?
no.
This feels like that. 100% this feels like that. So if anybody's read that, this is that.
Check
There
out
we
that
go.
recommendation right there.
Max always has a Rex.
Love it.
Lots of ecological fun and facts and parasite descriptions and
Lots of world building. This is a
lots of-
world building
yeah.
book.
World building.
yeah. I could totally see there being a book 2, but I don't know if they're actually planning on writing one.
I'd probably read it.
Oh, I would. It would be fun.
Oh yeah.
It would be a low stakes, like I just need a good time.
Right.
I definitely suggest the audiobook because the screaming was incredible. Like
Yeah.
it's like a lot of screaming going on. So I don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much reading it physically because I was just like doing dishes and all of a sudden everyone's like, we're gonna die, and I'm like, ah.
I feel like the narrator did a really good job.
Did a really good job.
Sweet. All right, so now we are going to be entering spoiler territory. If you do not want to be if you don't want to be spoiled, we'll see you next time on Melody's channel for Winter's Orbit. So you can read that for the month of May. We'll let you know when we're going to be doing our live show. When we figure out a date, we'll let you know immediately. And so, yeah, we'll enter into spoiler territory right now.
Okay.
All right.
So I learned way too much about cloacas.
Oh
It
my
was
god.
like-
I googled. I was like, what is that? And then I regretted it immediately.
It was fantastic. Favorite scenes. What do you guys have?
I really liked the bit where she took that guy down into the jungle and was about to let him get eaten by the jungle crabs.
That was pretty
Yes.
funny.
What is with the crabs? What is
We can't
every
escape.
book we will never escape. No. Crabs everywhere.
Okay, now we're on the other side of the spoiler line. Can I say that like 90% of this book is a training montage and the story doesn't happen until the last 50 pages?
Yes.
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 In a way, it kind of reminded me, and I think this is why I liked it in a way. I don't mind the world building. I don't mind training montage if it's done well. Like this one, I enjoyed it. It kind of reminded me of like the Hunger Games, like the first book, where a lot of that beginning part of the book is, okay, this is the world we live in. Now Katniss is getting, okay, spoilers, I guess, for Hunger Games. Katniss is getting the... or not picked, she's volunteering for her sister or whatever. And then she has to, then we're going to the Capitol. Then we're, learning about the festivities all pre-games. We're going through, like, her shooting the arrow through the boar for the apple thingy. And then we're getting to the games. So it kind of, in a way, reminded me of that first Hunger Games book because a lot of it was like, okay, here's our world. Here's the very first process of the games. Here's us going to the Capitol. Here's us dressing all fancy. Here's us training, etc. And then we finally get to the main event of the whole story. It's literally the name of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And while I do think Hunger Games is more kind of like 50-50, where this one's like definitely 75 training to 25 of like final events. It just, I don't know, it gave me that kind of vibe. That was just how I felt reading it.
There were less cloacas in Hunger Games.
Definitely a lot less.
Oh my god. Okay. I did appreciate there was a section where they were talking about how they recruit who can go in. And so it kind of like subsided my my feelings towards, oh, we chose this person because we saw their master's thesis and blah 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 blah, right? But the idea that as long as someone has a grasp of like science or physics or just anything about like the structure of the world we live in, that they're more fitting to be able to not have like a mental breakdown when they go into this portal and are brought over to a different dimension with dinosaurs or whatever. I thought it was a great explanation. Where was I going with that? I don't know. I forgot. I was going to say, oh, not going to spoil or anything, but if you watch Bird Box or you read Bird Box, it made me think of that in a way.
Ooh, okay.
So I don't know how deep I can get into that without spoiling Bird Box for anybody, but
it made me think of did anybody see that or read that Michael Crichton The Sphere?
Yes.
Yeah, you know the bit at the start where the psychologist gets called into the mission and he's like, why am I here? Why am I here? And they're like, you wrote a paper 20 years ago and it was about aliens. And he's like,
I get one now.
I hope that happens to me one day. I hope someone reads my master's thesis in 30 years and is like, we need you to save the world. I'm like, great. I don't know what I did, but sure.
I think it was nice too. I don't know. This line kind of got like annoying, but I thought it was funny, especially at the beginning where like when Jamie's like, I'm here to lift things. And everyone's like, I have a PhD in physics and chemistry and bio or whatever the heck, geology, what they all have. And he's like, or they're like, keep saying he. He's like, and they're like, I'm here to lift things. They kept saying it, and every time they said it, it made me laugh.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're so much more than that, though.
Do you know what that was like? That was like that episode of SpongeBob where he keeps ripping his pants to make everybody laugh.
I want to get paid $250,000 to lift things.
Right.
Totally
That's
do
the
this
dream.
job.
That's the dream.
Totally. If they called me and were like, we need to send you to another dimension for 3 months, you might die, but I'll be like, where's the paper? Sign me up. Let's go.
Build some arm muscles on the job.
I'll start working out.
Yeah, I would work out just for this job.
It's $250,000 to get stacked in the jungle.
Oh wait.
You know what? Can we actually like advocate? I'm so here for this work model, like 3 to 4 months of intense work and then like 1 to 2 months off and then it
Yeah.
cycles.
Yeah.
Like I'm here for that. Like
And that's
a
like oil
regularly
riggers. I think
scheduled-
oil riggers do that.
Yes. Can we do that for everything? That and 4-day work weeks. I'm here for
I remember when like my cousin moved to a place where she had to go through like year-round schooling, and like hearing it as a kid, I'm like, that stinks. But then like what they do, they go to school for 2 months, they're off for 2 weeks. School for
Yeah.
2 months, off for 2 weeks, and I'm like, that actually sounds pretty good.
Sounds pretty good.
I'm not mad about that.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. That's kind of what's happening to me now. Oh gosh, but yeah, I thought that was super fun. And the scene, I like the scene where the CEO of the Food Mood, whatever it was, the Uber Eats thing, was trying to bribe was it a helicopter pilot or the
Pilot,
pilot?
yeah.
Yeah, the
That was
pilot.
cool.
Yep, and they went through the whole motion, and he's like, "Screw you! I'm not
Get off
losing
my
job."
plane.
Loved it.
Like, love that.
Did anybody else have trouble visualizing what a kaiju actually looks like?
Yeah.
I feel like it was
kinda-
deliberately vague.
It was deliberately vague. I just kept Godzilla in my head. I had some giant, oversized dinosaurs.
I was thinking like Cloverfield.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see
Yeah.
that. But on that topic, I think I said this in the Discord. What was the benefit of making it kaiju and not just another Earth in another dimension where was it Chexahedra? What was it? I forgot the name of the meteor. That was
Chicxulub.
Chicxulub. Yes, where Chicxulub never happened, and so dinosaurs are just still here. Like, why couldn't that be the thing?
I actually think I know.
Okay.
I think this whole thing, I think sometimes with loopholes like that, you can see where a story originated. And I think that in Scalzi's head, this whole thing started as a thought exercise with how could I make Godzilla feasibly real?
Mm.
And I think the whole thing grew from that.
Okay. Why do you think so?
That's my suspicion. Just because everything was geared towards like world building, how this is possible, how this could work. This is how it fits together. This is how they come to our world sometimes. This is where, and even like, this is why we make the movies so people disbelieve it and stuff like that. I think it was all geared around that one idea.
Makes total sense, actually. Well, they did say something when Jamie first went over to the world and they talked about Godzilla. Didn't they reference Godzilla and something about like, yeah, Area 51 or just all these different things that we know of as like scientifical myths actually having some sense of like reality-based reference.
Yeah.
That was cool.
I liked how, what was it, like the base camps or something? It was all named after like the Japanese directors that have made a Godzilla movie. It was like their bases
that was a
or
nice
like
touch.
some other thing. I don't know. I liked that. I thought it was like, I think I was like aspects like that I found really fun. Like that they were able to appreciate, yeah, we're talking about Godzilla and they're not necessarily like Godzilla, like how we know Godzilla from the movies, and yet they realize that it's similar, but they're still going to pay like tribute to like what they all love, which is like these nerdy movies about dinosaur like creatures and things like that. So I don't know, when they said that made me happy. I don't know why. I loved it.
I feel like this book showed a lot of love to the nerds, and I was yes.
So fun.
Yeah. I was like, I think I give a 5 just purely from the entertainment of this. It's like not a perfect book, but it's just, I really needed this right now.
I feel like the exact same way. Like this was so easy and so fun, and like I just loved every second of it.
Yeah. It was so fun. I also like the great buildup, I think, in describing the ecosystem and just how the different parasites lived on the skin of the kaiju and what the kaiju got from it and how the eggs functioned and the predatory aspect. Like everything was so well described.
Mm.
It was just so fun.
I can't imagine the parasites. Like just imagining all of those just squirming all over a gigantic. It just.
Oh. And
I
also,
don't want to actually know how many microbes are on my skin right now.
oh God. Sometimes I think about that though. Sometimes I think about that, like dust mites and things, and I'm just like,
Yeah,
"Ugh."
but I'm like, let's not.
That was great. But speaking of multi-dimensional things, it got me wondering, like, I wonder if John Scalzi wanted to do spin-offs or do a part 2 or a part 3, he could just keep going with the dimensions. Be like, what would happen if this ice age didn't happen? Or this is another Earth where we're currently in an ice age, or this is another Earth where technology didn't succeed, or just like, it's infinite opportunities.
I'd be here for it. I read all of them.
Yeah.
So let's see what else.
Oh, I'm not sure how I feel about sci-fi authors who use dimension to mean a parallel reality,
Ooh, do tell why.
because that's not what a dimension is.
True.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hear it a lot as well, but I think it's like a perpetrated carryover from like 60s, 70s sci-fi, where they're just using like retro terminology.
Well, I mean, that retro terminology is also just like commonly held the way that like the general public kind of just associates with these concepts. And I think, like Jessa said, that this is a great segue for people who are new to sci-fi, so that it'll be easily digestible.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
This is a good slump breaker.
It is.
Yes.
It was a good slump breaker. It was fun.
And I didn't know a lot of the references in the book, and it made me very curious about all of them. So I'm like, I have so much to read and watch now.
Yep. New books, new movies.
Yes.
So what do we think of like the main ending? So we all agreed that like most of this plot happened in like the last quarter of the book. So what do you think of like the ending? Did you like it? Did you see it coming? Like, what are our thoughts?
I
It
think
was kind of predictable.
It was kind of predictable.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say too. Yeah.
But that's not a bad thing. It was still fun, which is, again, going back to like, by that point I had already like lowered my expectations and was like, I'm not going to take this super seriously. I'm just going to go with it and have a fun time. And I just enjoyed it for just being a fun time.
Do you know, like, there was one bit that felt really out of place to me, but out of place in that it didn't match the tone of the rest of the book. The bit where they find the recording of their friend getting shot by those guys that come over from the other side. I feel like that was the most realistic bit of what would happen in that situation. But then like when they go to the place at the end, it went back to like weirdly unrealistic again. And there was like villain monologuing and stuff like that. And it's like, no way. They would just come here and kill you all.
Yeah.
Straight up. That's what they
agree.
would do. But like that one scene, I really loved that. But it was like, it so didn't feel like the rest of the book.
No, I totally get that. With the amount of cover up or what's necessary to keep this organization functioning, it could easily just be destroyed and nobody would even know. Would make a difference.
I'm surprised at how many people that the KPS like even like allowed to come visit. Like it just seemed like everyone and their mother who has at least $1 million is able to like come on over. And I'm like, you're telling me that all these people that have all this money, no one's saying anything to anyone? It just seems like a lot of people to me.
It does. It doesn't surprise me at all.
Right.
Like,
and that's what I like about it too, because like I mean, it makes sense because you need money and stuff. But also, I was just sitting here thinking, I'm like, this is like so many people.
It's the
How does this not
Godzilla
get
cover
out?
up.
Yeah. And also, like, if they did sneak over footage on their cell phones or whatever the case is anyone really going to believe them? Or going to be like, that's some great
Yeah.
CGI, man. Can't wait for that Godzilla 5. Like,
What kind of plane is that?
yeah.
Yeah, deleted scene from Godzilla vs. Kong.
Yep. And then since this book is pretty relevantly set in our current time period and talking about those things, the organization, if anything leaks, it could just be like fake news, y'all, and everyone will be like, okay. So, because how do you prove Godzilla?
Yeah.
I don't know. And then when the kaiju did come over and they said it ended up in Canada in some place that had a very, very small population, and how they were able to easily cover that up. Not surprised. Spot on.
I think they should just let them all through, build some big robots, and like Pacific Rim it out.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. No, do you know how sad I would be if I tried to become a pilot in Pacific Rim and could not sink? I would just be sad,
Yeah,
and
me
I would
too.
hurt my feelings.
That's another like related title for this book.
Yes. And if anyone likes Pacific Rim, giant robots and sinking with robots, I suggest G Gundam for an anime reference. Just throwing that there.
Or our previous read, Iron Widow.
Yes, Iron Widow.
Iron
Yes.
Widow.
It's so good.
I need the next book.
It's coming. It's coming.
But when?
Yeah. There was one section that I felt was really cringy, aside from all the other cringe, but I can get over that cringe. It was like funny but cringy because it just kind of ran on too long. You know when something is funny, but then the joke just won't stop, and you're like, okay, you can stop now. When they were giving out the awards for, I don't even remember what they said.
That bit was almost as long as the story at the end.
Same. To which part though?
All of the above.
Everything.
Yes.
Yes.
Do and then tell us all about it. Just
Yes.
give us random thoughts
Yep.
in the Discord. Just throw things. Like I'm pretty sure there was that one chapter in which I quoted something. Someone said something about "Don't you dare come around here throwing around your money eggplant," and I was just like, "Why?" I'm saying eggplant for something else, but it's like,
Oh yeah, I saw it in Discord.
What the heck? Do. But yeah, so that scene, I was like,
I like the first two awards, and then I got to Jamie's, and I was like, okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Right?
I still need to post my single book review of that where I rant about bald characters.
Why? Wait, who is bald? Oh no, you thought he was bald. Sorry.
He was bald.
He was not bald. We can go on and on about this.
We're gonna have a fight.
Because bald it was reserved for religious figures, and so we could have a we'll say that.
Oh my God.
But yeah, it's like because like I think someone already said there wasn't a lot of plot in this book until the very end.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of moments that I'm like, all right, let's get to it.
But if this has a sequel, then the world building's done, so we can get on with the story.
Oh, that's true.
So John, please make a sequel.
If
Get on it, Scalzi.
Yeah, if it was to be a sequel, would you want it to be kind of written like the same way of like this fun, goofy, pop culture-y referencing thing, or? And I guess this is kind of like a bad question because none of us have read any of his other works, but like, or would you like it to be more serious? Like, apparently his like other works are.
I think it's going to be goofy whether we want it or not.
I think it will be goofy.
Yeah.
Goofy's fine. Maybe
It's fine.
more like sci-fi specific references.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I'm pretty sure it was all in like when they first got when they first saw the parasites, and then when they saw dinosaur butt up close, larger than it was supposed to be. Or as close as they can to screaming in an audiobook, because they can't actually scream in our ears, right? But it was just like, oh, what is that? It's like
Imagine if like horror audiobooks jump scared you.
That sounds
That would be so
incredible.
great.
I
That would
would
be
get
so
a
good.
heart attack.
Maybe it does. If anyone's read an horror audiobook that has jump scare.
Imagine you just walking down the street holding a coffee and you're just like,
The person behind you would be so pissed.
Yep.
plotty
Yep.
book.
Yes. Yes. And keep it short too. This one felt pretty short,
Yeah,
and I like that a
it was
lot.
short. Mhm.
So keep
I want
this
200 pages of story, please, John Scalzi.
Yes.
Yes.
We'll take 4, 5.
We know how kaiju work now.
Yep.
We're done with that.
Yes. Yes. And I kind of like, because of that the kaiju are a bit ambiguous, that we don't have any illustrations or anything. So
Yeah, me too.
it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. But being that this was set in a Earth that is similar to ours, where the dinosaurs were not put extinct, and that we did not see any dinosaur action, what happened to the dinosaurs?
Probably got eaten.
By the kaiju?
Or did
Probably.
That's
They're
my guess.
larger, right?
Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. Or are all kaiju an evolutionary new dinosaur?
Oh, like something down the line?
Mm-hmm. If it's set in like a similar time
Mm-hmm.
length as ours, did they evolve?
Were there even dinosaurs?
Were there? Great question.
Because dinosaurs happened, there were like 3 extinction events before dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm. Well, they specifically reference, I can't say the name again.
Chicxulub.
Chicxulub. Yes. So why reference that?
I think it's a Mayan word or an Aztec word.
I think
don't
so,
know.
yeah. Dun, dun, dun.
Trying to think of what else. What did you think of the characters in this book? Like Jamie's like little like buddies that they make like throughout. There was also kind of like the newbies. Like there wasn't really any characters that I disliked.
I feel
I
like
think-
there wasn't really any characters.
Oh, that's a good point too.
Yeah.
I
Did
feel
they
like I
all
Gave
wanted, I
off the
wanted
same
more of them.
vibes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
good point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Same.
It was
Same.
Jamie and the rest.
Yes, it was. It was. But the whole thing with the plant and the talking, leaving a note for your next
Oh,
next
yes.
book, that was
So
really cool.
cute.
I love
Imagine quitting that job. What kind of scrub would ever leave that like cushy setup where you get to fight monsters in a parallel jungle world? And they're just like at the start they're like, oh, I've kind of had enough. I'm gonna go home.
I mean,
What if
maybe
you
they saw
got
some
2
stuff.
separate limbs torn off, though?
Yeah. Yeah,
I,
did
I,
they?
I keep going to the
I
end.
think I get paid a good amount of money. I'll get new ones.
I'd be like that guy from Family Guy with like 2 peg legs and 2 peg arms.
And Max is like, I'm still here. I can lift things.
I lift things.
I'm here to lift.
I love it. Oh, it's funny. Yeah, no, I don't blame them, because you're right, Mel. What did they say? They lost like a thumb or
They
something.
lost like 2 separate limbs on 2 different
Wow.
missions.
So Jamie's lucky that they didn't lose anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
I
But
was
then it's
just
like,
trying to.
oh, good.
Oh, I was just trying to imagine like a bunch of panthers and like monsters inside the jelly kind of thing. I was like, how do they swim in the jelly? Like, how does that work?
Jellyfishing. Oh my god. But okay, so speaking of like people quitting, if you quit the Kaiju Preservation Society, you can't put that on your resume, right? So like
Oh.
where do you go from here?
The interviews, they're gonna be like, and why were you unemployed for 10 years?
Secret government facility.
Yeah.
Do
That's
they
restricted
like
information that you're not allowed to know, sir.
Oh my god. And then also, if you quit the Kaiju Preservation Society, are you allowed to well, I guess so, because like they let all these rich people come around and they just confiscate their stuff, but like they're not gonna Men in Black you and zap your memory. So you don't talk about it, but
I guess they're just very trusting. I wouldn't be, but
so what do you do? Do they come up with a fake company to put on your resume and have like a
Maybe.
fake oh my gosh, do they have a whole
Hopefully.
fake HR for people to call for job references?
Maybe that's what you do when you quit. You just go to work for like Kaiju Preservation Society HR.
That's so good. Oh my god, that's hilarious. Unless you're just set for life. I
right.
don't know. I don't know. I
They
mean,
leave
if
you
I'm
with like
getting
a
paid
nice
a
little like
$250,000,
package.
yeah, I just work for like a year or 2 years, and I'm set for life. If that's the case, do they even have a retirement package? Do they have a 401k?
We need these
To be
answers.
honest, to be fair, I feel like their life expectancy is like 5 years.
Yeah.
So they probably don't need it. HR is probably like, yeah, you'll get a really good retirement.
I liked
Hilarious.
that the pilot was like, nah, my job is too boring. That's why I fly the plane. I was like, I love you.
I like the pilot. Yeah. Aside from Jamie, the pilot was probably my favorite character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%.
So that was fun.
Anything else?
I don't know. I feel like not a lot happened.
Right.
Mhm.
I kind of wanted to like punch the multi-billion Uber guy in the face.
Yeah.
I was hoping
He was
someone would
so-
punch him in the face, but I guess we can't always punch our clients in the face.
Mhm.
Just like-
As soon as he came, I'm like, he's either gonna be like the main villain dude, or he's just gonna bug me the entire time.
yeah, it's just buggy.
Mhm.
Some
Imagine in the
monologue.
second book we find out that the CEO didn't die.
Mm.
I would be pissed.
Yes. Or that he just bought out Kaiju Preservation.
Oh my
Ooh.
gosh.
Ooh.
Mm.
Mm. He's
Mm.
like, I own this now.
He would get everyone killed.
Oh my gosh.
Right. And then, oh my gosh, I have so many questions. Like, how would you sue for like workplace whatever if you can't sue an invisible organization? I don't know. I have so many questions. It's so fun.
I need like the handbook. Like instead of releasing like a
Employee
new book,
handbook.
they just release like the employee like company manual, so it will like tell you everything.
Wait, yeah, I don't think they ever signed anything. They were like, do I need to sign a non-disclosure? And they're like, this is the non-disclosure. Our conversation is the non-disclosure agreement.
I think it's really funny how this is like a completely alien world build, and all the questions we have are like corporate questions. Oh yes, but how do the pensions work?
Oh, well, I don't want to know how the parasites work. Keep those things away from me.
Yeah,
That's fair. That's fair.
It's so funny. Oh, it was good. It was. I
I feel like we needed a light-hearted book.
Yes.
did.
Yeah.
Yes. And I have a feeling next month's book is going to be a little heavy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So.
This was like a palate cleanser
Mhm.
Yes.
between beefy courses.
Yes. kind of making me want to jump my rating to a 3.75.
Not quite a 4. Not quite a 4.
No. I don't know. It was fun.
It was just so enjoyable. And yeah, like there's not much of a plot. It happens in the last part of the book, and it's just kind of like we know who Jamie is, and while the other characters I think are fun, they're just kind of there as figures. But it was definitely it made me happy, and I'm still happy. So I'm glad that we read this one.
Yeah. If you take this book too seriously, I don't think you would enjoy it. You'll be why there's so many coincidences.
It's like, just go along for the ride.
Yeah, just go along with the ride. Jamie's awesome.
All right. Any last words of wisdom on this book for anything?
I don't think so.
I don't feel like it's a very words of wisdom-y book.
No, it's not.
All right. I guess we'll close it off here. Thank you, everyone who came and joined us for this discussion. It was just kind of like all over the place, but I also think because this book, in a way was kind of all over the place with its references to like the ending and everything. I think this was just a fun discussion, even though for the first 10 minutes we did talk about Twilight, but
we forgot to explain that reference. Oops.
Yes, so there are 2 kaiju that they named Edward and Bella after the 2 main love interests from Twilight. So, and they like complained about it, and they thought it was cringy, and I thought it was cringy, and I loved it.
Yes.
Yeah, they were trying to get them to mate, so they were lovers.
If you could name a kaiju, what would you name it?
Oh, that's so hard.
See, I just automatically thought of Nessie again because I'm thinking of Twilight, where like she's like, "You named my daughter after the Loch Ness monster," or nicknamed her. I just thought of Nessie, even though it's more of a Godzilla, not a Loch Ness monster. But
it's still close.
I don't know.
Too many. It would be something cute for me.
Yeah, something like really like cutesy, like like Buttercup or something.
Yes.
Buttercup.
Yes. Like give me the biggest, scaliest, ugliest looking kaiju, and it'll be like
call it Tiny Tim.
Daisy. Snowflake.
Oh, cute.
Another good one.
They would all be named after food.
Noodle.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us here on my channel this month to talk about the Kaiju Preservation Society. Again, we're going to be on Mel's channel next month. We don't have a date set just yet, but we will soon-ish. And when we do, we'll let you guys know about that. Again, we're going to be reading Winter's Orbit. So I'm so excited to get that one started and to talk about it on Mel's channel. It's going to be so much fun. We'll see if it's definitely kind of like sad and dark and completely different from this one, or if we still have like, a good, fun, enjoyable time with it. So thank you for joining us. Thank you. And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much for being here, for joining us. Or if you are rewatching this later on, thank you for staying with us. It's been a blast, and we'll see you guys next month on Mel's channel. So thank you guys.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.